Hi, people. This is DJ.
This is Ish.
And this is
Season
Season 3
3
of Pero Let Me Tell You. Why would...
What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
You know, I saw that movie only once.
I think maybe twice.
I liked her more and Can't Hardly Wait.
Well, I mean, yeah, she was the object of everyone's desire.
You know what? She was supposed to be the new generation's Alyssa Milano, but let's face it.
There's only one Alyssa Milano.
There's only one
and
Alyssa
I love
Milano.
J-Love.
Yeah, me too. Especially Japan loved her too.
I know. She helped them get loud.
Well, wait, Japan loved Alyssa Milano too.
So maybe that was the key.
Oh.
Okay. I get it.
They both had fictional mothers that died.
That's true. Okay. Wait, I like where this is going. They both had nice racks.
Dark
hair.
They both lived in the East Coast.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know Party of Five that well.
No, I'm trying to go. I'm just going for like in general. I would say Jennifer Love Hewitt had a more successful film career than Alyssa.
Oh well, no, yeah, that's true. Yeah. But Alyssa Milano's Alyssa Milano.
Do you have your own sports memorabilia line for women?
Were you front and center at the Kavanaugh hearings?
Did you have an aerobics video?
Did you have Tony Danza as a father?
Don't we all wish?
Yeah. You know, jazz dancing, tap dancing,
yes.
Tony Danza. So with that, ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to episode 117
of Pero Let Me Tell You. I mean, who doesn't love Alyssa Milano?
It's true. You know, I will say one of the best memories I have of a Broadway show was it was on Broadway for like 10 seconds.
I'm laughing for another reason, but go ahead.
It was on Broadway for like 10 seconds. It was the musical version of Honeymoon in Vegas, but Tony Danza was starring in it.
Yes.
And there's literally a moment where the whole show just basically stops so he can do a tap dance routine. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? That's it.
Yes,
I saw Tony Danza tap dance live.
One of my favorite stories of yours, and we got to make this quick because this is like a you and I story, was what you told me that you saw Debbie Gibson. I don't know
after Cabaret.
Yeah,
after she was in it with Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, and her hair was like when you saw her
she
outside,
had so much volume.
And you were like, how does she have so much volume in her hair if she had a wig? Like, I don't know why I remember that story.
Because it's a great story. It was just volume, so much volume.
Mira, y ahora el Lyme disease, la garrapata, acabó el pelo de ella. Y tiene dos mechas de pelo.
But you know what? It's okay. I like her new song, Girls Night Out, even though I know it's not good.
So welcome, everybody. Welcome. How is everybody doing? Here we are in episode 117. And,
yes.
Soon we'll be in, like, episode 150. And we'll be like, remember our 100th episode?
Yes.
That we did
Hopefully
not
by
celebrate?
150 we'll be able to do a party.
So,
hopefully.
Well, who knows?
I'm saying hopefully.
So
I'm maintaining hope.
Let's start off talking about the elephant in the room, which...
I feel triggered. Okay, I've gained a couple of pounds in this corona thing.
Okay, obviously, anything you speak about nowadays is going to be coronavirus related.
Yes.
So specifically here in Miami, so gyms, pretty much most things had to close.
Right. They opened up. We opened up.
They opened up.
Then we closed.
Then we closed.
Then we opened some stuff.
And then we closed some stuff.
Then we closed some stuff. And then we opened some stuff, but it has to be outside.
Right. That's like, I thought it was really interesting.
It's like opposite side of the street
parking.
parking.
This was that, okay, so the city of Miami, when the curfew was in, the city of Miami put a curfew. So did Miami-Dade County.
Right.
But then the city of Miami removed the curfew.
But the county
did not.
Right.
But the city of Miami is within the county.
Right.
So it's like, okay, wait, what? Like, what? So
it's
now,
like having a conversation with a Cheshire cat from Alice in Wonderland.
No, wait. I remember. No, wait. When the whole thing with the curfew happened, it was one of those moments that I had. I was like, am I getting something wrong? Like, is the city of Miami no longer in Miami-Dade County? Like,
right. Did they move it when I wasn't looking?
Like, yeah, did something changed that I didn't know about? Because it's completely contradictory.
I would understand the reverse.
The reverse makes sense.
Correct.
Right? The reverse makes total sense.
Right.
And it even makes logical sense because
That's where the protests were.
that's where the protests were. That's where most restaurants are,
Right.
where most clubs are at, and bars are in the city of Miami around downtown.
Right.
So it would make sense if there were stricter rules there, because those are the social hubs of the Miami-Dade County area than suburban West Kendall. Right.
Right.
But no. It was the other way around. So
That's how we like to do it here.
So I've been very vocal here in terms of what I think about reopening and reopening too fast. Although the economy was tanking and something needed to be done about the economy and something still needs to be done about the economy. And I feel absolutely terrible about it and I'm worried about it. We all
You're
understood.
feeling it firsthand, too.
Yeah, I'm feeling it firsthand. We all understood the implications of opening the economy too quickly.
Right.
But we finally opened. Okay, so restaurants in particular, especially small restaurants, had to now, out of their pocket, pay for infrastructure they didn't need before.
Right.
Like putting plexiglass and moving their tables and all that stuff. Masks, retraining their employees.
Right. And reducing capacity.
All
that.
I've been to a few restaurants. I went to the Cheesecake Factory and they had like one table here, one table there. Yeah. I thought that the places that I went out to dinner and I went out to eat at both like established chain restaurants and like local mom and pop restaurants. I thought everybody did a really good job at social distancing. They were taking your temperature, they were putting plexiglass and all that. Okay, so we're not going to allow that. Now we're not going to allow that. But you can go to the gym. Can somebody explain to me the logic behind that?
So I actually was having this conversation with Jose yesterday. I don't get it, but I get it.
You get it, but you got it?
Yes, I don't get it, but I get it. Now I will explain what that means. The gyms have reopened, but they've placed stricter rules in the gym in the sense that you cannot take your mask off at all while you're in the gym, right? So on and so forth. The inherent problem with eating at a restaurant indoors is that eventually at some point you will have to take your mask off. You will have to expose yourself, like it or not. Because at a gym, you don't have to take off your mask. You know what I mean? Like a gym, there's no inherent quote unquote reason to take off your mask. But if you're going out to eat, you are inherently going there to eat, which requires the use of your mouth, which is behind your mask. So I get it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
But here's where I would counter that. Because obviously, I think that your logic is probably the logic that they used in...
Not that they said it,
or similar, but it's probably similar logic to what they used in opening gyms and then closing down restaurants. Yes, but when you are at a restaurant, you are sitting down. You're not moving, right?
True.
So if we are going to go by what we know now, that it's 6 feet.
Right.
Right.
At a gym, there's no way to keep 6 feet.
And in the restaurants, again, the restaurants that I've been to, they have been like communist about the 6 feet. They've done it like 10 feet, right?
Yeah.
And you have to have your mask on until you're seated.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
See, I forgot. I think it was a Cheesecake Factory that somebody came in behind me, and the moment he came in, he took off his mask, and the lady was like, "Sir, you need to put your mask back on because I think you can't take it off until you're seated."
Absolutely, because that defeats the purpose.
In the booth, right? So yes, you do have to take your mask off, so the germs can fly. But again, unless you are like coughing like out loud, like big time.
No,
but whereas in a gym, people are moving around in a gym, especially in the free weight section.
That is true.
Because as we discussed earlier, a couple of weeks ago back, I could understand.
Grab the 20s, then put them down.
I could understand in a gym if they do it in the cardio area,
or if it's one of those like small like personal trainer type gyms. Because there's somebody there who could literally just be on top of it.
But let's just talk about a regular gym. In a regular gym, I could understand how they could do it in a cardio area because cardio machines are stationary.
Right.
So
you do every other machine. Or
so you do every other machine or every 2 machines. You put plexiglass. You have somebody disinfect it. Whatever. But that, cardio is maybe 25% of a gym. Right. Everything else is free weights and machines and all that stuff where people are walking around. How many times do, people like you? 3 people are using the same machine. So these are all things that like
you have to account for.
And you have to like then be on top of, right? Because you know what? Yes, they're not letting the gym be at full capacity. Well, what about if everybody wanted to use a bench press?
Right. Also, how are they controlling the capacity thing? Are you going to the gym? I'm genuinely asking.
Am I going to the gym? My gym closed down.
Not you. I mean, how are they closing? Well, yeah, that'll keep you home. That'll definitely keep you safe.
24-hour fitness closed down.
The one here. No, my question was because they're saying social distancing at the gym, or it's not at full capacity. How are they controlling that? Do you know?
I don't know. Well, they probably know how many people. They probably know how many people are in the gym at one point.
Yes,
right. So,
but if I show up,
right, if you show up, oh no, we're at full capacity. You can't go in.
Right.
I don't know.
Then I go home, or I have to wait for 20 minutes, or how do they control that?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, it doesn't make sense that they open gyms again. Like, and again, no offense to the people in the gym community. I know, especially
it's not their fault.
But a lot of personal trainers were very upset when they closed the gyms again. And I understand, that they make their living out of this. It is, but again, and I miss going to the gym. I'm the first one that's dying to go back to the gym, any gym. But again, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me about restaurants and then gyms. Right. But you know what is opening this weekend? Is Disney World.
Is it really?
It is opening July 11th.
Well, Universal's already open.
Well, there we go. Yeah. So what do we think about that?
So what are the parameters? I mean, obviously it's at reduced capacity.
And it's social just distancing.
Just the rides? Or I guess my question is, what is opening?
What I've read is
because Downtown Disney has been open for a while now.
Yeah. From what I've read, it's reduced capacity and social distancing. Knowing Disney World, they probably will have people with like a 6-foot stick.
Disney's figured it out. Like if I'm going to trust anybody to have figured out a way to combat this and keep making money, it's Disney.
But that goes to the point that I was saying. You're opening up a theme park,
but you're not going to open up a restaurant,
right? And then, okay, here's a really stupid question. I know this sounds really stupid, but these are things we have to think about. Okay, so are you going to put the rides at full capacity? So when I sit in Thunder Mountain or in Space Mountain...
How many carritos are empty?
Right. And like two? If the person in front of me is somebody that's not in my party, do they have to wear a mask when they're screaming, you know
what? They probably do have to keep their masks on.
They probably have to keep their masks on. So then vas a estar pasando calor in Disney World con la máscara puesta, especially now that it's July, you know? So it's like...
Going to Disney in July is just asking for trouble to begin with.
Yes.
Regardless of...
Are the water parks open?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I would hope not. But,
I don't know. And it's just...
I mean, I got tested this week. Mm-hmm. Because I had a pseudo scare.
What's your Oh, I didn't know about this.
I know. I saved it for the episode.
You saved it for our episode.
I saved it
look
for
at
the
what
episode.
Look at what he does, people.
See?
Like
I risk infection to just bring you entertainment.
Yeah.
So this past weekend we went away for the 4th of July. Rented a house up in Lake Worth with some friends, and everybody was negative. I mean, we knew everybody. It was a small group of it was 6 of us. Okay, so again, under 10, right? We're adhering. So we're driving up. We drive up. We get there, and we went up Thursday. That Thursday. One of our friends, she works at the FIU Medical Center. She gets a call and she goes and she comes back and she's like, "Hey guys, I have some bad news." I'm like, "What happened?" Apparently, a girl that she works with, tested positive because the girl's stepfather tested positive, and so now the next day she had to come back all the way from Palm Beach down to Dade County to take the test and whatever. So basically, for the next couple of days, we were like, okay, well, we're all social distancing. Mind you, we're like within a house, so we basically told her, we're like, don't touch anything in the kitchen. We'll cook. We'll just get in the pool because that's chlorine and that kills everything, right? Like that's fine. So whatever, she goes and she gets tested. We find out that it's negative. But then, twist. Another friend of ours, he had gone to the house of some other friends. Turns out that one of the guys in that house is a nurse. Turns out that he's tested positive. So then we're like, well, shit, you were at the house and then you were with us. So what if, she came out negative, but what if you're positive? And what... It just became a whole thing. So basically, resumida cuenta, we spent 2 hours in line.
Where did you go?
We went to the Walgreens up in North Miami. Actually, it's a Walgreens that's been closed for like 3 or 4 years.
There's a Walgreens that closed?
There's a Walgreens that closed in North Miami. But they still own the building. Walgreens still owns the building. I don't know.
How does a Walgreens or CVS close nowadays?
I think maybe because you open so many of them near each other, they cannibalize.
They cancel each other.
They cancel each other out. So my youngest nephew's godmother is a pharmacist with Walgreens. She was over there doing the tests. So I texted her and she was like, "Yeah, just come. Whatever. We'll go through." So it was, we were in line.
Was it drive-through?
It was drive-through. We were in line for about, like I said, like an hour and a half just to get up to the thing. So then when you get there, they give you the little swab. They undo the package. It's in un carrito. They push the carrito towards you. It has your name and your ID thing, whatever. You take the swab yourself, and you got to shove it up your nose. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. They're not touching you at all, babe. No. You got to shove it up your nose, do it like 5 times in each nostril, then put it back into the little sobrecito thing, and then, we got our results back within like maybe an hour.
What, did you have to pay for it?
At most. Nope, it was free. Now, I don't know if it was free because I have
right.
I have a hookup, or if it was free because whatever.
Generally the ones that you get the results in
quick is yeah. But yeah, now so we tested negative, and I know people are there. Oh, false negatives 30% of the times. I'm like, look, 30% of the time is pretty.
Okay, but no, but
I wouldn't take those odds.
Right,
in Vegas,
but
right?
you did what you had to.
But I did what I had to do, and and I got tested, and it's so funny because all I could think of is like, wow, here we are, 2 gay men sitting in a car going to get tested, and it's like, it felt so like HIV-ish, you know what I mean? Like
drive-through HIV
yeah,
test?
it just felt so like, did you get your results?
No, it's
Are
funny
you positive?
Because being paused means something
being
else.
Is something else now. Yeah, it's so bizarre to me. It's so bizarre. Pero mira, para que tú veas, Louis Aguirre tested positive.
Yeah. Well, but Louis Aguirre I could understand because, he's out on the field.
No, actually it's because at Channel 10, there were 5 people who tested positive.
Right.
In the newsroom.
Right, no, but they're journalists.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, but I'm just saying, like, you know what, para que tú veas. Like,
imagine keeping social distancing in an
interview.
In a newsroom.
In a newsroom, yeah. It's got to be difficult, yeah.
No, and with the numbers now that we have, somebody that is bound to have
it's going to be one of those things.
Yeah.
It's going to, mira, like now I know 2 people who have it. You know what I mean?
You're going to know somebody who maybe knows somebody that has it.
Yeah.
I just think that there's still people
an old classmate of ours from high school has it. She lives in Texas, but
okay. I just think I don't understand the people who still are downplaying this.
Well, I think the reason they're downplaying it is because, and I'll use Louis as the example, only because he's announced it and he's sharing all his story on his Instagram page. But he's got it, but he's like, I feel fine. I just did a Peloton class. I did whatever. So what you're seeing is, people are testing positive, but there's no like.
Right, but
the expectation was like when you're positive, es que estás tirado por el
right,
piso.
but the thing is that look at this poor guy, Nick Cordero. That poor guy took 3 months to die. They had to amputate his leg.
Yep.
They're going to amputate his lungs. And he was young. He was our age. He was our age,
yeah.
And there's a lot of young people that have died. I remember the first victims here in Miami-Dade.
No, wasn't there a sheriff?
We're
a
all
sheriff
like
who was like a big, healthy, muscular guy.
People.
Yeah.
So yes, because people keep saying, "Oh, the mortality rate is really low." Yeah, it's really low, but there's still people dying from it. And when you have now hundreds of thousands of people that are infected, guess what? The mortality rate, even if it's under 5%, you're now talking about thousands of people.
Right.
No,
and I get it, but at the same point, like, I also understand, to tie it back to what we were talking about a little earlier, in terms of like small businesses and things like that, like people want to get back to their lives.
People want to get back to their lives, but
so I get it. I get
it too. But the concession that you have to make is to wear a freaking mask.
Oh no, wear the fucking mask.
So it's like what's like okay?
No. Wear the mask. Wear the mask. But I'm saying like I'm not gonna stay home for the rest of my life.
Wear the mask and make some adjustments. You know what? It's okay, boo boo. You don't have to go to the bar. It's okay. It's okay.
Cheaper to drink at home.
It's okay that you don't have to go to a concert. It's okay. This is going to be there when it comes back.
Right. This too shall pass.
It's just to make some adjustments. Right. Some adjustments.
Short term.
Nobody's asking you to eat ramen noodles and not leave your house in 5 years, right?
I still would eat ramen noodles, but yes.
I know ramen noodles. Mira. Do you not make ramen noodles?
With butter?
With butter.
Yes.
Oh my God. Mira. But I don't have ramen noodles, the cheap ones. I don't have it as a soup.
You use it as like
I have it. I make
a pasta almost.
I make it. I drain it because it's really supposed to be as a soup.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I drain it and I add butter to it.
Oh yeah, that's just
and
good.
then I add a little bit of soy sauce.
Ooh.
And then if I have green onions, like the
chop
scallions, I chop them. so good.
Oh my God, can we have that after we're done recording?
I think I like the creamy chicken.
Sure. I don't care. I'll take
I
it.
mean, just thinking about that makes your blood pressure go up because of the sodium. But who cares? It's 10 cents.
We're making some sacrifices all around.
So let's see what happens. The numbers are just staggering. They're just horrible.
They are. And I mean, it could. Again, I know I'm being half full almost. It could be worse. But just wear your masks, people. Like, that's all we're asking.
No, it could be worse. It's not Ebola.
Right.
It's not Ebola. But as I said, people are like, oh, the mortality rate is really low. Yes. But when you're talking about now that there's millions of people that have been infected in the United States.
Right. 5% of that number is
it's still thousands of people.
Right.
It's thousands of people that
if you can prevent even a fraction of them from
dying. The United States is the only country that has resurged, because the other countries in Europe, which at one point were hotspots, they've gone down and they've sort of kept it down. Right. But you know how some people are here.
Darren, we have to be number one at everything.
Yeah, including coronavirus.
Everything.
So, speaking of being number one.
Oh God.
So I posted something on my regular Instagram today. And I was going to post it on ours, but then I was like, let me not, because then we won't have to talk about it. So, have you heard of Katie Miller?
So I have, only because I saw your Instagram.
Okay, so Katie Miller, she is the press secretary for Mike Pence.
Yes.
And she is also the wife of Stephen Miller. Do you know who Stephen Miller is?
I do not.
Stephen Miller was actually the very first person I gave a Coke to in episode 1. I actually gave him a flat Coke because I'm quite sure that he is the son of some spawn of Satan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's like our age. He's like either in his late 30s, early 40s, and he looks like an evil, robot.
Oh, is it like the way that Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz are the same age, pero Ted Cruz está acabado?
Sort of. But Ted Cruz looks much better with a beard.
Yeah, but Ted Cruz still... Ted Cruz does not look Marco Rubio's age.
And Marco Rubio would look so much better if he had different hair.
Yeah, he has that private school, third grade.
I mean, for God's sake, Marco Rubio, you went to the foam parties.
You went to foam parties.
Come on. Come on, Marco. Little Marco. Okay, anyway, so this Katie Miller girl, she is...
I don't trust grown women who go by Katie, by the way.
So she is under fire because she said, quote,
okay,
when you come to America, you should assimilate. Why do you need a Little Havana?
But she's right. She's right. Why do we need a little Italy? Why do we need Chinatown?
So,
why do we need?
Wait. She also
we should all embrace American culture, which is nothing.
She also said, because Stephen Miller, which is her husband, he is Trump's advisor. I actually think he is the worst person in the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. The worst. I think he's worse than Trump. I think he's worse than Mitch McConnell for the Republicans. I think he is the worst person in the Trump administration. The worst. He is a person I fear the most. So what was this in reference to? Where did this quote come from? So they were talking about immigration, right? Because Stephen Miller is the advisor of Trump regarding immigration. Okay. So in reference to the kids being separated, right, at the border, and this, again, whatever side of that argument you're on, right? This is what she said. Okay. Quote, my family and colleagues told me when I have kids, I'll think about separations differently. But I don't think so. The Department of Homeland Security sent me to the border to see the separations myself, to try to make me more compassionate, but it didn't work. And that's when her uterus left her. So, it just crawled out her vagina and said, bah. My answer to you... at least she's not trying to be a hypocrite about compassion. Well, that's true. That's true. Listen, you know who she is. She's coming at you. So again, she said, when you come to America, why should you assimilate? Why do you need Little Havana? So, her whole thing is that when you come to this, you should be American. You should be American. Right. My answer to her is, what is American? Well, I was like, well, then, if that's the case, then we should all be following and practicing the culture of Native Americans. Yes. Yes. That's all, Because if you say that, I'll be like, well, they were the people who owned this land. They were American culture. No, I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, again. You want American culture? You got American culture. It's like, you know what? When people say things like that, it's just like, okay, what do you want me to assimilate to? Laziness and braggadocio? Because that's America culture right there. Mm. Hot dogs? Nope, sorry, sweetheart. That started off in Germany.
Apple pie, pretty sure started off with the Dutch. Hamburgers, Europe. What else? What have you got? Fried Oreos?
Ramen noodles.
I mean, yeah, like bastardizations of other cultures. That's what's American culture. Like, go fuck yourself, you stupid cunt.
Okay, that's a strong word for our podcast. Even for us.
She pissed me off. She pissed me off and I'm 2 drinks in.
Right. So, again, that is the type of comments without going too deep down the political rabbit hole.
It's not a political thing.
That is the type of comments that we are now just accepted.
It just is.
People from the government say these type of comments. Before the current situation we are in, would you have heard anybody from any elected office or anybody working in the government,
a culture,
no matter what party they're from or what part of the aisle they're from, say something like that about
denigrate a culture?
Yes.
Right.
Why do we need a Little Havana? Like,
no, pero espérate.
I'm sure the Cubans...
Espérate. Porque here's what I'm going to say about that. Cuando llegue esa vieja resabiosa aquí en Miami, que no vaya a comer en Versailles.
Right.
Porque I live 3 blocks down y voy y la arranco por los pelos.
Right. So no, I mean, it would be curious to sit down with her and ask her...
Especially the Cuban, for better or worse... The Cuban community has been such a supporter of the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So, like, of all the people that you're going to attack, that just doesn't even make sense from that perspective.
Right. No, I agree. But people that feel that way don't see it like that. They just see it as immigrants. You're an immigrant. Assimilate. You know, and there's something to be said about assimilation. I mean, I do think that obviously if you come to live in the United States or you're an immigrant in any country, there's certain customs that you have to come across,
right.
Succumb to
you should at least
adopt,
you should learn the language,
because it's just going to make your life easier, right? But of course, you can be very proud to be an American and still be very, very proud of your heritage and your culture, wherever it may be from.
Es porque la mayoría de esa gente no tienen cultura. They don't have a culture to speak of. Their culture is quote unquote America. And again, I reiterate, what does that mean?
Right.
What does that mean?
I would love to know. I don't know too much about her.
And if you're gonna say rock and roll, you damn well better acknowledge the presence of that black people had in the creation of rock and roll.
Right. I would love to know what her background is.
Bitch.
Right? What is her background? Like, because unless she's Native American,
yeah, they came from somewhere.
Her ancestors got on a boat.
Yeah, she doesn't look Hopi to me.
Yeah, her ancestors got on a boat from somewhere,
or a plane, or a horse, somewhere. Or something, a wagon trail. I don't know. They got here somehow.
So,
Stupida.
So moving right along. So kind of like really, really sad news that's coming out about Naya Rivera.
Oh, have they found her body yet?
As of today, Fake Friday, they haven't. But, I mean, at this point in time, I was watching the news. It's a recovery effort. It's not...
Yeah, she's presumed.
She's presumed dead. Is
it a big lake where she... So, for those of you who don't know, Naya Rivera played Santana on... I was going to say on Grease. On Glee. Over this week, she was in a boat. She rented a boat, went out sailing with her young son. The kid's about, 4? He's young. He's young. 4. She never took the boat back. They sent another boat out to go look for the boat. Basically, to tell her, like, hey, come back. Yeah. And all they found was the kid in the boat wearing his life vest, but they found her life vest, or an adult life vest, in the boat. And so they're still, as of this, they're still looking for her. But, man, it's sad.
It's sad. Like, do they have, seriously, do they have, like, a curse? Like
the Glee curse?
Because, I mean, 3 of them have already died, and they're young people.
Yeah, but I mean, I would say to a degree. I mean, I know we're calling it the Glee curse because shorthand. But I would say that I don't know if I'd call it a curse necessarily, because on the one hand, with the exception of Naya, the other 2 that have died were essentially by their own hand.
Right, but nonetheless, it's like unfortunate circumstances,
Right,
right. It was, I don't know, like that. Quick 3 people dying that are young of a cast is
because they were all like, I think I'm not sure, but I think she was the oldest one.
She was the only one. She's 33.
33, yeah.
Right. So, but all these stories about Leah Michele being a horrible human being. I mentioned it to you. I've enjoyed speaking. I chat a lot with Stephanie from Mamas and Merlot. I've enjoyed, because Stephanie really knows about Broadway and stuff that. I don't know. I just know Hamilton. Oh, well, we'll talk about that in a minute about Hamilton.
Still haven't seen it.
So she's more up to date on all that stuff. Right. And I'm like, oh my God, like. She's like, because you know what?
I always heard she was.
I'm one that I'm not. I don't really believe celebrity news.
Right, because everybody says what they want to say about you, and you can't always defend yourself.
Like I love reading Us Weekly, and it's like a source says,
right.
So who is this source?
Right,
like,
or it becomes like so and so is an asshole because they didn't give me an autograph.
Right,
it's
like no, you define asshole, define difficult.
The circumstances.
Right, but when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like everybody that has worked with you. Come out and
saying
say
you're a horrible human being.
Right. It's not like she was difficult.
Right.
Or she wasn't
very personable on the set.
Right. You know, she kept her distance. I tried to be friends with her, but she kept her distance. That's one thing. I mean, what they have come out and said of her is that she is like one hairline short from like Satan.
She might be related to Stephen Miller. I mean, we're just like for all we know.
Or she might. Well, no, I was just like she might be Satan and Elizabeth Hurley in Bedazzled. She looked so good in that movie.
Oh my God. This week on EW, they did a feature on Charlize Theron. Mm-hmm. And she took her own, like, moving 3D pictures or whatever. And I'm like, this woman, even taking her own pictures on an iPhone, looks phenomenal.
Well, yeah.
I mean Charlize Theron just can't. Yeah. Whatever.
So, yeah. So, Leah Michele, horrible person, it seems.
But speaking of Broadway, as you mentioned, Hamilton debuted this past weekend.
I have seen it 4 times.
I have yet to see it. I don't have Disney Plus.
But I give you music.
I love how that was.
Because when I started saying,
everybody knows exactly what you said, but without saying.
When I started saying, I'm like, oh, legal reasons, law. I know a thing or two of.
Everybody just knows exactly what you said at that point without you having said it. For the record,
okay. So,
but I mean, remember, I was away for the 4th of July,
right.
So
I've seen it 4 times already.
Right.
I've seen it 4 times.
So what? I've heard the cast recording.
I'm not into musicals. I've seen some musicals, and musicals are something that I can certainly appreciate the artistry behind it.
It's just not your thing.
I love music. I'm a huge fan of music in general. It's just that sometimes they're either too long or it's just too song and dancey, and it's like, oh my God, can we move on, please? Right. Move on. And Hamilton, and specifically, there's so much hype about Hamilton, for quite some time. Yeah. That to say the bar was high is an understatement.
You very easily could have walked away from being like, tanta cosa para esto.
Yeah, the bar was practically in another galaxy of how high it was, because it's like freaking Hamilton, And I have to say that from the very beginning, it just grabs onto you. And when I finished watching it, I was like, because I told you I watched it with subtitles because most of it is hip hop, so it's very quick. There's like a couple of rap battles, which are even quicker, and they're shooting out American history at you like 100 miles a second. Right. So I wanted to really capture like the historical context of it. And when I finished watching, I'm like, oh my God, like this man really is a genius. Like, how the hell did he put that together? Like, because, again, and
you know where he got the idea. I'm sure you
from the autobiography.
Yeah, not autobiography, because I don't think Hamilton wrote.
Well, from the biography.
Yeah, he basically literally was reading. I read, back when it was starting in its infancy. He was like on vacation after In the Heights and after a whole bunch of other productions and things that he did. And he was just reading the Alexander Hamilton biography. And he was like, this thing was like, 1,000 pages. Mm-hmm. And he says that once he's finished reading it, he was like, this would make a really good show.
But what I thought was amazing was, and I know that, he followed some of the basic rules of like, Broadway or like musical.
Right. The structure.
The structure of it. What I just thought was so interesting, like, for example, I forgot her character's name, that she is the sister of, she's Eliza's sister.
Oh my God, I can't think of it now.
I think it's amazing that all her, like every line of her dialogue or singing rhymes. Like, it all rhymes, like, throughout the entire freaking musical. And, like, the whole thing, I'm not going to miss my shot, you know? That it's like...
I'm not going to wait my shot.
Right.
I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry.
Yes,
and I'm not
but that is what, carries through the whole musical.
That's the through line, yeah.
The through line, but it's what the ending is about, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I was like, how did he, because I was thinking, like, I wouldn't even know where to begin to, like, write that mammoth, like, monster of a musical.
Because first of all, and it's funny because as, you know, again, with everything that comes out, there has to be a counterpoint, and everybody has an op-ed. You know, now, especially because of the times of Black Lives Matter, a lot of people came out and said, well, you know, yes, we shouldn't take away from the artistry, but, you know, that's not the full story of Alexander Hamilton and whatever. And that's true, but I also will remind people who say that, who will come out and say, well, you know, he doesn't talk about X, Y, and Z. I'm like, yes, and I get it.
Eliza's family were major slave
and I get it.
Owners.
But that's just the fact of a matter of any time you tell a story, especially you have to tell a story in a finite amount of time.
Right.
You can't just start going and diverging, because let's remove ourselves from Alexander Hamilton. Anybody's life, if you start to make a biography, even a movie, let's not even talk about a musical, you have to whittle it down. You have to have a narrative. You can't just be going all over the place, because then it's like, what are you telling me?
Right.
Like, what do you want me to take away from this, right? So I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, I would argue that what their problem is with storytelling. But yeah, to your point, how do you sit back and say, okay, I've got this man's entire life. What is the part that I'm going to focus on? Like, how do I whittle this down to 3 hours? Because it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes. How do I whittle this down? You know, when did Alexander Hamilton die? He was, in his 30s? To 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I mean, it is. And no, I mean, obviously the thing with slavery, I mean, that's something that, you know, now... Anytime you have some type of depiction of American history, especially in that, which was, you know, the revolution, that was around the time of the revolution or after the revolution, you know, it's a very sensitive subject that, of course, should be addressed. And, well, we've talked about it here on the podcast.
Yeah, but again, but that's not the story I'm telling, quote unquote.
Right. No, I understand the criticism in the sense that, you know, we're in a... And time changes in a blink of an eye,
right?
You know, and I'm sure that if he were to write Hamilton now, he'd probably make some changes,
some other choices,
you know, that he didn't initially do. And you know, and there are a certain, you know, attacks on or references to slavery in the show that obviously are negative, as well as it should be. But what actually I wanted to tell you was, like, in terms of characters, I freaking love David Diggs.
David
Diggs, who played Lafayette and then Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
I freaking love him. I thought he was so good.
You watch Blackish, don't you?
You know what's funny about Blackish is that I've seen a couple of shows and I love it, but it's one of these shows that I just never catch on television.
Okay, well, no, he plays Tracy Ellis Ross's brother.
Oh yeah,
on Blackish, yeah, and he's headlining. Did you ever see the movie Snowpiercer?
No.
Okay, well, there's a show now on TNT, and he's the main character there.
Yeah.
That show's really good.
Yeah. But
no, he's phenomenal.
I liked him.
Leslie Odom Jr. Oh my God, I've loved him since freaking Smash.
That's
Alan Burr.
And George Washington.
Who is George Washington?
He was in The Heights. Stephanie told me. The actor. But I mean, the whole cast. I mean, they were all like great. And again, I was so like, man, you know, like, I don't want to be that person that watches this and be like, oh, like, this was such a...
But it could have easily gone that way.
Yeah, this is like, so like, whatever. It's not a big deal.
like
I didn't want to be that person. And I even said, like, you know, if I watch Hamilton and I don't like it, I'm like, oh, you know, it was good.
Yeah, you would have found something. You would have been like, you know, it was great how they got so much history in there.
Yeah.
You would have said something like that.
Yeah,
like,
I've watched it 4 times. Like, I've watched it 4 times. That is how much I loved it.
The thing is that it's two of your, like, you know, like, of your freaking, like, you know, soft spots. It's American history and hip hop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like Lin-Manuel Miranda got into your head and was like,
Yes.
how do I get Darian into a musical?
Yes.
How?
Yeah, but I mean, again, when you see that, it's like, man, this man is a genius, because how
he is.
Like, do you start with the first song, like Alexander Hamilton? Like,
listen, the average musical takes at least, I think what I've heard is anywhere between 7 to 10 years to mount.
Yeah, well, I mean, kudos for him. Well, he's a great transition into our interview.
This week's guest. Yes, this week's guest. So, much like Lin-Manuel Miranda, we are huge fans of Walter Mercado.
Huge.
Walter Mercado. I mean, what's not to love? What's not to love? And this week, on Netflix, debuted a documentary called Mucho Amor. And so we have the two directors, Christina and Kareem, and the producer, Alex, on our show this week. And they are two Miami boys. She's not a Miami girl, but she's Argentinian. So, you know, she's got some Latina cred. But we talk about a lot of things, but mostly the documentary and really what it was like to create this love letter. Because I think, I mean, we've both seen the documentary at this point, and I think it's safe to say it is a love letter to Walter Mercado and to our Latino culture, really, in a way.
It really is. It really is, because I think that he's one of those things that you don't realize that that's culture. When you would be at home as a kid watching him,
right,
and Abuela was watching Walter Mercado or whomever, you didn't realize the significance and importance of that in the grand scheme of things, in terms of culture. But he very, very much is, because as you know, we talk about in the interview and in the documentary, there is. Well, like I say, no matter what Spanish-speaking country you were from,
you know Walter Mercado.
You know Walter Mercado.
You know Walter Mercado. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And it's funny because, like I mentioned, I'm surprised there wasn't already a documentary about him. You know, the fact that there wasn't one was, I think, a little more surprising to me than anything else. But you know what? Without further ado, we have the directors and producer of the Netflix documentary, Mucho Amor. So, welcome back, mi gente. Now, as we mentioned, we've had some great guests on the show. But these guests, these three people who we're talking to today, might actually be my favorite by proxy of the fact that they have created a documentary based on probably one of the most fascinating people that we didn't even stop to think about how intensely fascinating he was. And so, we have Alex Fumero, Kareem Tapsh, and Christina Constantini, who are the producer and directors of the Mucho Amor documentary that is premiered as of this episode yesterday on Netflix, depicting the awesome, fantastic, fabulous, all words escape me, Walter Mercado. So welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So we saw the documentary. We had a screener and we saw it. Thank you guys for making me cry on a Sunday evening, is basically what I'm about to say, first and foremost. It was the documentary I didn't know I was expecting. You know, again, Walter Mercado is super fascinating. Of course he'd have a documentary, but he hadn't. How did this all come about?
Well, I mean, we all grew up watching Walter with our abuelitas, like, you know, Primer Impacto would be on, you get dropped off to be babysat, and then like Walter comes on the TV and you get shushed immediately, and everyone has to be very quiet and focus on the TV screen. And as a kid, he just like is like a wizard that appears on your television, which was, you know, obviously leaves an impact. And then when we got older, I think all of us kind of had similar questions, you know, like how did this guy become so famous in a world that's like pretty machista and homophobic at times, you know, a little bit. And also, you know, what happened to him, because he was on TV every day. And then it wasn't like Sábado Gigante where they were like, we're canceling the show. It was more like he's gone, you know? Right. And so I met Kareem through a mutual friend, and Walter was having an estate sale in Miami, and Kareem was going to go to the estate sale. And I was like, man, like, you should do a documentary about him. Like he hadn't thought of that already. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to buy capes, but I'm also going to try to do a documentary. And I was like, oh, I'd love to help. And he made contact with one of the nieces, and we set a time to talk on the phone because I was in New York, he was in Miami. Right. And half an hour before that, Christina calls me, and we had worked together at Fusion, and she was like, I heard you're obsessed with Walter Mercado. I want to make a movie about him, because I would want to walk around talking about him all the time. And I was like, this is so weird. I have a call in like 30 minutes with another director, but like, I feel like maybe this is like a cosmic thing, and you guys have different kind of styles. So maybe we can all do it together. And so they both agreed, like kind of like blind date arranged marriage situation, and they got together and decided to co-direct, and the rest is kind of history.
Wow.
So I'm curious. So when you guys approached a distributor, in this case Netflix, how did that go? Because I mean, here you're selling this documentary of this astrologer kind of icon in the Hispanic community, but kind of was, out of sight for a bit. How did that pitch go?
Well, at first it was very hard. We tried to raise money. There are a few ways that a documentary can get made. One of those ways is by raising money and then selling it at a film festival. So initially we wanted to do that. And so we wanted to raise all of this money to be able to go do that. And we had a lot of trouble raising money in part because many of these rooms are filled with white people who have no idea who Walter Mercado is. And so pitching him was very, very difficult. And it wasn't really until we found a place or a couple places with young Latino execs that really got the importance and the cultural significance of Walter that we got this thing financed. But we were, what is it that you say, Korean bubblegum? And
tinfoil and bubblegum is how it happened for the first year and a half.
Yeah, we were really building the plane, or the runway as the plane was taking off. And the plane, too. We were also building the plane. But it was really rough. I mean, we did not have the funding. We were dipping into our savings. We were, deferring payment. It was really a scrappy project for a minute there. And then Netflix came in and saved us. So
that is literally a labor of love.
How long would you say you guys were working on this from inception to where we are today?
From inception to where we are today, we actually just figured this out this week, was 3 years.
Okay.
Actual filming was just shy of 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was kind of serendipitous in a weird way, right? Because obviously, when you start filming a documentary, it's well before. You guys weren't filming it because of the I don't know, the exhibit at the Miami Museum, right? I mean, you had started way before that, and then that came along, and I mean, he passed away like 3 months after that exhibit. So I mean, you guys, I don't want to sound like a ghoul, but you guys got lucky in that regard to be. I mean, timing was literally everything in this case, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was.
We got lucky in that we were able to spend the last 2 years of his life with Walter, and that if we had waited any longer, we would not have been able to have made the film. I mean, and we thought about it. We had like really intense discussions, like should we wait till we can raise some money and do this right from the beginning? And I think we all had the sense that that didn't make sense because Walter was, already kind of advanced in age, and who knows how long it was going to take to raise some money. And I think that was the wise decision at the end of the day, because had we started the project a year, we wouldn't have been able to start the project a year later. Walter's health had started to seriously decline. His mobility was limited, and he wouldn't have had, honestly, probably would have not had the energy and wherewithal to do it, to start day one if we would have waited. And so timing is everything.
It's interesting that you're saying that, because I mean, in the documentary, the deterioration of his health is very noticeable, especially at the end. And I mean, obviously that's something, as Ish said, that you guys weren't expecting. So you guys got to know him in a way, that very few people have. So even though we all grew up watching him, what would you say, or what would you like, listeners and the viewers of the film to know about Walter, the man, the person, that maybe is, something different, or maybe exactly what you see on TV?
Yeah, we when we started this project, we didn't know what to expect, and we knew we loved the person that we saw on television, but who knows? People say never to meet your heroes,
right? Because
they're never what you want them to be. And so, we didn't know if Walter was going to be an asshole or what, and so And so
a guy with that many capes has to be some type of a jerk, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were like, is this guy a psychopath? Like, why does he have so many capes? Like, what's going on?
Right. So and if he was an asshole, that would be the story of the documentary. But we showed up and we met basically an angel on Earth. He is the kindest person I think any of us had ever met. He is truly so full of love. There's no way, you can't fake it. What he is truly a love-filled creature. He always cares so much about how everybody else is doing. He has an incredible sense of humor. I think that we didn't realize. You don't really see that on television every day. And he was also brilliant. And everything that he did was considered and had and he had thought about a lot. We see those capes and we see them as funny and extravagant and, and adorable. But they were all intentional. He would call them estupideces, stupid things that he would wear to get people to pay attention to his message of love and peace. And his message was much more important to him, but he knew he had to look fabulous for that message to go anywhere. And it worked. I mean, we're here talking about him because he really cracked the code and understood his audience. And so, yeah, he's a brilliant man, a hilarious man, but above all, he is who you would want him to be. He is full of love.
Yeah, and I think people underestimate him a ton, and it when we went to Puerto Rico, we first worked with this Puerto Rican DP who's very well known there, named Hochi Melero, and Hochi had taken pictures of Walter his whole life. His dad had taken pictures of Walter, and the first thing that he told, he was like, it was almost like when you meet someone's dad and they're like, "What are your intentions with my daughter?" Like, it was a little bit of that kind of conversation, and he was like, "Let me tell you something. Walter no es un lightweight. Walter es un heavyweight." And we were like, okay. And then he went on to explain that it's a lot of what Christina's saying. It's just like you may not believe in astrology. You may not believe in Santeria. You may not believe in God at all, right? But Walter knows everything there is to know about all of those things. He might as well have a doctorate in world religions, right? So if you're gonna, before you underestimate this dude because he looks like Liberace, maybe get to know him a little bit.
Yeah. It's funny, you guys, he always gets compared to Liberace. I mean, obviously the visual is there, but watching it, I actually felt a little more like you said, he was smart. He was very quick. I felt a little bit more like watching Paul Lynde when he would do the Hollywood Squares. That's the vibe I got, because, there were times where there were little comments and little snide remarks, and he had a zinger, but it was never bitchy. It was always just like, I can play this game and we're going to have this, rat-a-tat back and forth. And I think that's very, very, like you said, it was underestimated. People thought they were just going to get in there and hacer lo que querían con él. And he was like, no, I'll play along, but I'm not going to be your bitch.
Right. It's interesting because, I was thinking Liberace comes up often because of the visual look. You think who had we had in English dominant culture that was kind of came on screen being so so obviously queer, right? And I think of Paul Lynde and I think of Charles Nelson Riley in the 70s and Liberace, but the thing about both Paul Lynde and Charles Nelson Riley is that they were catty. That their humor was based on a cattiness. And Walter, every once in a while, it's like, but in the most playful, light way. But he didn't, he had the fabulousness and the wit, but there was never at the expense of someone else. Right. In fact, he was in on his own joke. He knew that he was over the top and fabulous, and he would use that and lean in on that to make you laugh. And that's part of his brilliance, the fact that he knew it and he would use that. And he was very disarming because he was incredible charming.
So what do you think it was about him? Because, obviously that's something that you guys touch upon in the documentary, but, it certainly was something that followed him in his whole career. What do you think about him was, so people accepted so much, he was in terms of, gender nonconformity, in terms of, you said, queerness, but yet in the Hispanic
he was
community,
non-binary before that was even a term.
Yeah, exactly. Yet in the Hispanic community, that we're so like, you know, homophobic and machismo, and you know, a man. Why do you think that just when it came to him, it didn't matter, and people still flocked to him and loved him? People of all walks of life.
Yeah, I think he got a pass because he was kind of magical and mystical. And you know, you have to think about Walter landed on TV in 1969 as an astrologer. He had been a telenovela star before that in Puerto Rico. But when he landed on television, he's wearing these extravagant robes, this jewelry, this feathered hair, this lacquered on makeup. And he looked unlike anything you had ever seen,
Right.
male or female. And he challenged that. But then here he is talking to you about astrology and horoscopes and religion, and he mixed them all in together, and he looked like an alien. He looked like an alien in the sense that we've never seen anyone who looked like that, who challenged the notions of masculinity in that way. And he told us something good because his message was always positive. So he kind of endeared himself, and at the same time he didn't talk about being different. He didn't talk about being different in the sense that he didn't come out of the closet. So abuelitas and people who kind of first encountered that, it was just they were so mystified by this guy who brought them good news. And he reminds us a lot of like Juan Gabriel in the sense that, you know, they always showed us who they were, even if they didn't put a label on it. And you know, you kind of get a free pass when you're magical.
When you're magical.
Nobody questions the unicorn.
I like that. So something I was really curious about in terms of the composition of the documentary and like the story arc was that a lot of people didn't know about the legal issues that he was going through with Bill Bakula. So I'm just curious from the side of documentary makers, you know, is that something you guys from the beginning wanted to address? Was it something that organically came up? And most importantly, how did you get him to sit down for an interview and be such a big part of the documentary?
Well, I'll let Alex talk about how we got him to sit down for the interview, because Alex was super. He's an amazing producer, and if anyone's making a documentary, you should hire Alex Fumero. But
we'll keep that in mind. When we make ours, we'll hire Alex.
But to your first point, you know, when we set out to make the film, the three of us knew that Walter wasn't in the limelight. That we hadn't seen Walter in a long time, but we had no idea what happened to him. I think we were kind of like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And if you do enough Googling, and if you do enough searching through court records, you can figure it out. But it's definitely, you know, we hadn't heard about it. And the more we dug, the more that we found out, the more interesting it got. And so I don't, without spoiling too much, Walter's manager who was very instrumental in making Walter a superstar, also had a hand in what we call his downfall. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, it was a very complicated relationship, but the truth of the matter is that Walter would not be Walter. We would not be talking about Walter. We would not know who he is if it were not for the brilliance of Bill Bakula. So I think that's part of the reason he wanted to be part of it and tell his story, but the other reason is, of course, Alex Fumero. I'll let him know.
Well, I appreciate that, but I think that it's more. I think when you approach someone like him, if you go at it trying to do like a gotcha interview, or you know, I think then people smell that, you know, and I think that when you approach things just trying to get to the truth, a lot of times people's perception of the truth is more flattering to them than you would think, you know, than someone else might think. And I just think, you know, it's this old thing of like, you're never the villain of your own movie. Right. You know what I mean? Like Osama bin Laden died thinking he was the hero of his movie. You know what I mean? So when, you know, approaching someone like Bill, like he's not nowhere near close to that. You know, he's right. A guy who is a businessman who made certain deals, you know, and the way he sees it, like, you know, he's responsible for a lot of good things in Walter's life, and the family is the problem, right? And he makes specific points about that. And so when I talked to him, I wasn't really interested in, like, you know, I was honest with him, but a lot of what I did was I showed him that I had studied who he was and what he'd done, and that I appreciated the work that he put into Walter's career. And I think that helped earn his trust, because he knew I wasn't just some guy interested in, like, only the most salacious details of, like, you know, their dealings.
Right. Well, it's very interesting, because that's exactly, you know, with what you said, that's exactly how it came through, because you didn't portray him in a way that he was the villain, you know, like,
despite having villain eyebrows.
That you know, ruined Walter's career. I mean, you kind of put it out there, and it is what it is. Yeah.
He's just a Belen kid. He's just a Belen kid. You know.
Well, I don't know. For some of us, public school kids, that's a villain. I'm just saying. I don't know.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm saying. Is like, he's not evil, but he did go to Belen. So there's always a question.
Spent too much time around Cubans.
Yeah, exactly. That's where it's like the Joker meets the radioactive material. It's like you take an Argentine and let Cubans raise him, and that's what happens.
Oh my God.
Wow, if that's not a T-shirt for the press tour, I don't know what is.
I'm Argentinian and the guys are Cuban, so we're the worst.
So we're unbearable. We're unbearable.
Ooh, that's a lot of ego going all around. I'm just gonna say, there's a lot of cultural ego.
The poor Puerto Ricans that had to deal with us this entire time is awful.
They didn't know what was hitting them.
We can't stand ourselves. We're tired of ourselves by the end of the day. We're like, man, turn the fucking camera on. Let me not talk to anybody else. I have
a covert video I recorded of YouTube talking about how you suspected that al pastor tacos were invented by Cubans.
Of course.
Let me tell you something about it. Do not work with an investigative reporter co-director. You do not know when she's surreptitiously recording you in the corner.
You don't know what she has on you.
You don't know. I don't know what she has on me, and it's very scary.
Yeah.
Don't believe the fake news media.
Oh my God. I love it. So I mean, and I really hope that all of our listeners do watch this, and I think all of our listeners probably by the time they hear this will have all binged it. You guys will probably be like the #1 top 10, Netflix show that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, I'm putting it out into the universe.
Everybody's ears.
I'm putting it out into the universe, and what would you like, if nothing else? And actually, I'll ask each of you to answer this question individually as we wrap up here. What is it that each of you would like for people to take away from this documentary? I mean, we can start with ladies first. We can start with Christina.
Patricia.
I think we live in a time when there's just so much hatred and so much division, and our politicians are very eager to tell us why we should hate other people. And I think I think back on this lesson of love that Walter gave us as a child, and it seems so easy. It seems so, basic, but it's in many ways the hardest thing to put into practice is to love people, and to love people who are not like you, and to learn, to constantly be learning. And Walter taught me that, and as an adult, I try to remember it every day, and I try to live more like Walter every day. So I would hope that people will bring that to their own lives. I also just hope people will call their grandmas. After you're done watching this, call your grandma, because I know your grandma would love to hear from you. I can tell you for certain.
All right. I don't know,
I would say, I would just say, I think that, like, don't worry so much what other people think. You know what I mean? Like, Walter just did what he wanted to do. He dressed how he wanted to dress. He refused to, like, he didn't allow labels to confine him. He never even talked about, like, haters or critics. Like, he just didn't cross his mind, and I think that's, like, a lesson in today's like internet, comment, cancel culture, whatever you want to call it, day and age, like it's like just do you.
Kareem?
Is Kareem frozen?
Oh, I think he froze. He froze. Which
he looks so pensive.
I know. Yeah. I was like, wow, the pearls of wisdom that are going to come out. Just like.
well, let me sneak in one last question. While he hopefully unfreezes or thaws out, what would you say is his allure and continued I guess now renaissance? Because something that I really enjoyed that you guys showed was that this whole new generation of young people, millennials and zillennials, are now really into Walter. What would you say appeals so much to this generation who probably didn't grow up watching him per se? What appeals to them of this man?
Well, I mean, I think Walter he would say 100 years ahead of his time, which I think is pretty accurate. He, was genderqueer before genderqueer was a thing. We found videos of him in the 70s saying that in the future there would be no gender, that gender is a construct. There will not be male or female. And I also, he was extra before extra was a thing. That's I love when Alex says that.
It sure was.
And he's like perfectly reverse engineered for Instagram or for social media or TikTok. He is just loud and he's amazing outfits and I think he really speaks to this kind of this independence and this idea that being different is not weird. Being different is we should embrace it and we're all should embrace our individuality. And I think that is very much this generation's beliefs, and astrology, of course. Astrology is very in right now. But yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of reasons, honestly. But mostly he's just so fabulous. How can you love Walter?
Yeah. He really was ahead of his time. So, well, thank you so much, guys.
Yes.
That was awesome. Yeah. This was I enjoyed this documentary so much, and I'm telling you this not just because we're interviewing you. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing, and it was something that I think we so needed because the world outside of the Latin community really needed to know this man and needed to know the legacy of Walter Mercado.
I will say the only documentary I enjoyed, a little less, but it comes in second to this one, would actually have to be a short one I recently discovered called Dolphin Lover.
Nice.
Kareem, me dejaste con la boca abierta. Okay, after that. So I'm gonna leave it at that so people can discover it on their own. That's all I'm gonna say.
I always like to say it pairs well with a nice Merlot.
Child, I don't know what that pairs with. I mean, I mean, God bless. God bless. I don't even know who to bless after watching that. But they all need church. That's.
You can watch that, and then you watch the Walter doc as kind of like
balance.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
To keep the universe in balance. We always say we've been lucky enough like for 50 plus years we've had Walter in our lives, in our culture, and now we get to share him with the rest of the world. So that's really exciting. So everybody watch Mucho Amor on Netflix. Watch it repeatedly. We won't be offended.
Yeah. Well, listen, I plan to watch it again this weekend when it premieres too. Yeah. Shoot.
Hello. Yes.
I have to have the screening now at my parents' house and at my aunt and uncle's house. So there's multiple screenings.
and be emboldened to bring back capes. I think that's the other message.
I was gonna. I was actually
for any occasion.
I was gonna ask Kareem if you actually wound up buying one of the capes at his estate sale, but
I'm way too poor for it. Is what I soon discovered. I'm way too poor. But I did walk away with the calidad de cobre. I had the calidad de cobre that was in Walton's bedroom, is in my guest room, and a crucifix off his wall. And I bought a whole bunch of half-broken tchotchkes to give to friends who I thought would be very excited about it. But then I just they stayed in the closet because they were half-broken. I'm like, what are you doing? So I have some Walter stuff in the house, but alas, no capes. But we did wear Walter's capes to the premiere at Sundance.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm
We
jealous.
wore those capes. We wore those capes all the time. Like that. Was
Anywhere,
that's like
everywhere
mostly
they
why we
went.
made the documentary. It was just to wear the capes.
So that's really the reason.
We made the doc so that we could play Walter Mercado drag, basically.
I can't think of a better reason to make a documentary in my life.
Hey, who knows? Maybe if Halloween isn't canceled this year, people will like start dressing up as Walter Mercado.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's true. And then, inevitably at Party City, you'll have, slutty Walter Mercado. Because, everything's got to be slutty